much spider people are there?
Hey, fellas.
Hello.
This could literally not get any weirder.
It can get weirder.
Okay.
Welcome to Extra Butter! Starting with, it's Baron von Munchausen.
What?
Google it. Meets Star Wars, meets Avatar, meets Lord of the Rings, which is good because Peter Jackson, the Academy Award winner, is behind it. We're talking with the stars of Mortal Engines. Also, finally, a Spider-Man for everyone. You are going to love Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. We'll talk with its stars, and it's about 17th century royals, but plays more like Mean Girls, meets the Kardashians, Emma Stone, Rachel Weisz, talking with us about The Favorite, and so much more on this edition of Extra Butter. It's award season and the good movies are headed your way, so let's start this show. Do you guys have a ticket?
No.
Okay, it's just me hanging out with my friends talking about movies the way you talk about movies. By the way, speaking of talking about movies, keep the discussion going. Follow us on Facebook. It is Extra Butter TV, starting right here, right now.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
All right, first and foremost, she is a travel blogger. Most recently, what big country did you visit?
France.
All right, and next time we follow you on social media, what big country are you going to?
I am going to the biggest country of them all, Texas.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm going to be hanging out with your brothers.
Yeah, great. Learn the language, I was going to say. Here, I'll teach you some Texas.
Okay.
Here's my brother. And my name's Sam, going down there and fixing doing the thing and deal.
I don't know what you said, but I feel like that's great.
I've got a translator. Google will help you out, too. Also, he's a world-famous comedian opening for the likes of
Tony Roberts,
Ooh.
Gary Owens,
And-
Cedric the Entertainer,
and-
you name it, Dave Chappelle.
Where do we find you?
SSan23 on Instagram, comedian Steph Sanders, STEPH on everything else.
All
The
right.
cousin of,
Deion Sanders, my 16th cousin.
Really?
oh yeah, and Kelly Savannah Deaton, by the way.
I need a flow chart and complain about anybody, everything right here, right now at TV Marquez Sound. All right, so it is still going strong. Ralph Breaks the Internet is awesome.
Bananas.
You already know that because you've probably seen it unless you've been under a rock.
Bananas, I love this movie. I never thought I would love an animated film like this since
Right.
Incredibles 2 or anything. This film is fantastic. And again, that princess scene gets me all the time. I love that.
It's one of those animated features that's changing the world. Like, you're gonna go see a Steph show and all of a sudden he's doing Disney princess material.
Exactly.
I caught up with Ralph himself to talk about it. John C. Reilly, take a look. I think Ralph is probably infinitely more complex than we give him credit for, but at the same time, there's a simplicity to him in that he's happy in the moment. He is living his best life. Is that kind of you? Do you have a lot of that in you?
Well, yeah, I'm someone who, like, you know, whatever situation I'm in, if it's a very uncomfortable situation or if it's something I don't like, I try my best to make it better for myself. And once I've done everything I can do, I just accept the way it is and move on.
Okay, moving on to something entirely different. If Beale Street could talk, you're saying, what? I've never heard of this movie. Well, you should hear of this movie. Why?
Because, number one, it's directed by Barry Jenkins. He directed the critically acclaimed Oscar-winning Moonlight. Barry Jenkins has a very talented way of taking the most, it's, you know, like the most trivial things, kind of, it doesn't seem like big. They're very simplistic moments, and he brings it out in people and makes you connect with, like the audience connects with these characters in the most simplistic way,
And
with the most complex emotions.
In addition to the simple moments, he takes very complex moments in life, some of life's hardest moments, and finds how people can actually find joy in that moment. We talked about the source material and this movie you gotta see. Take a look. This is one of those movies that after you see it the first time, it's under your skin. Like, my mind will be going back to this movie for different reasons for decades.
Well, that's how I felt about reading the book for the first time, so I think that's a good thing, yeah.
Talk about where you started, the genesis of this, when casting landed, when you knew you had it.
Yeah, you know, I wrote the script originally in 2013, didn't have the rights to the book, but I just wrote it, and so I sent a copy of the script to the Baldwin estate, and over the course of 3.5, 4 years, basically, got to know the estate, they got to know me while we were making Moonlight, and then just as Moonlight was coming out, was being released in theaters, we got the rights to the book, and then we started thinking about cast, and really casting a wide net to find our Tish, which ultimately became newcomer Kiki Lane.
What I love about this movie is that it's one of those stories that needed to be told, but it takes someone who cares about the story to lift it, because it doesn't instantly say that droves of people are going to see it in theaters, but once the word gets out, obviously they will. Did you have that feeling about Moonlight?
I did. You know, I did and I didn't. You know, I try not to think about the audience per se or the financial prospects per se. I just care about the characters, to be honest.
Right.
And I often feel like if you make something in a very specific way, in a very authentic way, you know, there will be an audience for it.
And again, talking about the movie based on the book, 1974, James Baldwin, If Beale Street Could Talk. Love this movie. And also, hey, Regina King, Critics' Choice Award. Regina King, Golden Globe nominee.
She's killing it.
What do you know her from?
I cannot believe this is the girl from 227.
Yep.
Boondocks.
Yep.
7 Seconds.
Yep.
She is incredible. Just everything she's
By the
doing.
way, kids, Google 227.
Yeah.
It's back in the day. It's
And she's
television.
in The Hate You Give. So she's in all of
yeah.
these timely, important movies, and she does not shy away from topics like this. She's like, this is an important thing.
Yes.
I'm going to be in every movie I can to get this out to the world.
And puts a stamp on each character.
Yeah,
Amen.
she does. You got to admire that woman.
We
She's
talked
a
about
force.
this.
There are some movies that are just all about shoveling the popcorn in and being entertained and
Yeah.
jumping into the
And those
action.
are fine.
And there's some movies that are great for breaking open a greater discussion. And if
Yeah.
you don't talk about this movie after you see it, I think you'll explode.
Yeah.
Right.
You
No,
have
yeah,
to
you
talk
have
about
to.
it.
You have to because you're feeling so many different emotions watching this movie. And, you know, I like the point that you made about the popcorn because I feel like so often with movies that you go, you need to see it. They're not always movies that we would categorize as entertaining. This movie satisfies both. It's entertaining and it's moving you on several emotional levels.
Sure.
It's artful and heartful, right?
Oh, I like that.
Boom.
Artful and
Write that down.
artful.
I can't begin to tell you how much I love this movie. This is an actor's movie. Actors will be studying monologues from this movie to the end of time because the source material is so good, and these performances are among the best. Moonlight may have been a surprise for some people when it won. This won't be a surprise if it wins everything.
No.
So go see it when you can. Also coming up in a moment, based on a best-selling book of a totally different kind, Mortal Engines. It's a little bit of every kind of science fiction, action, adventure movie you've ever seen thrown into one big stew of a movie produced by Peter Jackson. We'll talk with everybody about it next. Hey, welcome back. It is Extra Butter. Hope your holidays are cool. I don't even know what I just said right now, but write that down. You can keep that, make it your own.
That's
Hi,
right.
guys.
I like that.
I'm kind of in the frenzy of the holidays. You guys feeling it?
I feel it.
I am.
I don't know when I'm going to squeeze in all the shopping and all the great movies in theaters right now. How about you?
I'm doing movies first.
Yeah, you gotta
Alright.
do movies
Gotta
first.
do
Shopping,
movies,
you can
right.
always do online shopping,
That's
gift
right.
cards,
Yeah.
or at the movies, buy people gift cards for
Hey,
movies.
bam.
Boom.
See?
Bam.
All right.
You're welcome.
And like most supermarkets have gift cards now where you can buy them both. It's a combo pack of the dinner and a movie gift card.
I know, that's
Yo.
pretty good.
So do that,
I
right?
put popcorn in people's stockings.
All right. Do you really?
Yeah. It stay there.
So they're digging around
Yeah.
going, you know what's great about that? It attracts mice, and that's always fun to dig into. All right, so Mortal Engines, based on the best-selling book of the same name. If you've read the book, you know that this is bananas giant in scope. The only person that could tackle it would be someone who brought the Lord of the Rings books to life.
And The Hobbit. So
And those.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson has that built-in fan base, right? Because only his movies have that fantasy,
Right.
adventure,
Right.
thriller. There's all Mortal Coil, all that wrapped into one. So it has the built-in fan base. So you're gonna be thinking about this movie. You're already gonna see it. Like
Yeah.
it has the built-in fan base.
So you guys, when we talk about action movies that this is sort of borrowing from, leaning towards, Avatar is definitely in there, right?
Yes, for
Star
sure.
Wars is definitely in
Yes.
there a little bit.
Yeah.
Baron von Munchausen.
Yeah,
What?
explain that again. What does that mean?
You
Is
never-
that like the Munchausen proxy syndrome?
Hey, look, yes, it's very much related to that, and it's.
Bam, look at you.
It's a nice job.
Grey's Anatomy.
Good pull with that. Wait, did you look that up under the table?
No,
Is
it's
there-
in the DSM-4
She saw it.
psychology.
It was just on A Good Doctor.
Well, yeah, so anyway, but the reason it leans into it, because that's a very steampunk movie, and this movie is very steampunk. The movie,
Steampunk.
take a look. In this movie, it's apocalyptic, it's in the future. Most great cities have been destroyed but rebuilt again on giant treadmills so they can
Yeah.
move around to
Yeah.
find the resources that they need.
What is that? That is London.
I talked with the cast and crew. Take a look.
All right.
No, we're good. I took my Invisalign out, so that sometimes makes me talk
Make me
weird.
not do words properly.
Make me not speak properly.
Wait, is that
Now
how
I'm
we know
ready
that
to
you're
talk again.
seriously engaged in the
I'm
interview?
seriously ready now because I can enunciate because my
Taking out her
Invisalign
dentures.
is out. Yeah, I took my teeth out.
Well, I was going to say, I'm impressed that you were able to knock out any interviews with him because everything I say sounds like this, like I'm
Oh
stuck
my
or
gosh.
Channing all of a sudden.
You?
When I have the Invisaligns in.
Oh,
you have
really?
Invisalign.
No.
I'm thinking of getting them.
Oh my gosh, so good. Look,
Aren't they a bit?
I
Aren't
don't
they?
talk weird.
When
Look,
do you?
let me-
How often do you have them in?
Okay, you need them for 20.
Overnight.
Oh no, I have to wear mine for 22 hours a day, and it's fine. I'm just like, you can hear a little bit that I can't, and also all the spit comes to the front of my mouth.
You should get like a Gangstar version. Get one.
Some grill.
You can get different colors, yeah.
With that said, aren't you glad you're in a movie where everybody can? You don't have to clean up. You don't have to look nice in this movie because people are under some duress.
People are, covered in coal.
Except
and
we
soot.
do look very Cleaned up. I feel like Catherine looks a lot. There was someone. It's nice when you're in a movie where there's someone that literally their job is to mess you up.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's like, let's get the dirt person in, and then they come in with this bag of dirt, and then they just kind of like.
I was always trying to dishevel Tom as much as possible.
Did you ever go out in makeup in your prosthetics?
I
just
really
to
wanted
try
to.
it on for size?
I wasn't allowed to, because I guess it was very secretive and stuff, you know, and whatever. But I was curious to see like how, because she's so, you know, she's got the big scar and people comment on it, and I was curious to see how people would look at you.
Right.
You know?
And in your wardrobe, you'd have trouble getting through airport security, so probably.
I tell you something. Just I particularly I do enjoy the introduction of Shrike. I enjoy the first scene that the only scene that Hugo and I have together, because I love that representation of that cell, that box that's kind of, you know, out there on its own and pounding from the inside. I get a kick out of that.
I have one of my favorite scenes is with Robbie Sheehan and Hester Hilmar, who I think are both wonderful, and they have a scene that comes after quite a lot of action, and it's a scene where the two of them are in the wheel tracks of London. They're kind of down there at night, and they're hungry, and they're just talking, and they're talking about their past and their history and their lives, and they're eating, and they're cold, and I really love that scene. I think it's actually beautiful. It's just full of character, and you don't know where they're going to be going. They're just finding each other for the first time, really, just talking for the very first time, and they're very different people, but they've been thrown together.
How's it going to do?
See, that's what we were kind of discussing. I think with the built-in fan base, most people are gonna go see it. So I think at the end of the day, it will do okay. Will it do as good as Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit? Absolutely not, in no way, shape, or form. But I think it will do okay. What do you think?
I think it's a movie that's based on some source material that a lot of people are going to know. We'll see if it drives that box office. So go see it at your own risk. Now, coming up in a moment, the flip side of that, a movie that no one's looking forward to go seeing. And I'm telling you, if you go see this movie, you will love it. Why? Rachel Weisz, Emma Stone, join us next to talk about the favorite. It just might be that of your movie season. Hey, welcome back. It is Extra Butter. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you're following us online, keep the discussion going on Facebook. It's Extra Butter TV. On Instagram, I'm at TV Marcus Allen.
Kelly Savannah Deaton.
SN23 or comedian Steph Sanders everywhere.
There you go. Now, during the commercial break, this one was a little salty because I said that no one was looking forward to the favorite.
And let me tell you why you are incorrect. Because this movie is brought to you guys by the same person who directed The Lobster. So you know it's gonna be weird, it's gonna be funky, but it's gonna be amazing. And his movies give you more questions than they give you answers. So you're always confused.
No one, when you said The Lobster, like 4 people go, oh yeah, I think I heard of that.
Okay,
4 people in all
up,
the world.
People. Look it up. What's the pronunciation of his name?
There are more people looking forward to the next Red Lobster commercial than the movie The Lobster.
Anyway, but with this one, it's about sex, it's about power, it's about Queen Anne, it's about the court. It's a period piece, but it's not stuffy like a period piece.
I should back up. So I say that not many people are looking forward to it. Once you see this movie, and word of mouth in this movie is going to be bonkers because it's so amazing. Like, what would you compare it to?
I mean, it was like the Mean Girls.
Yes.
That period. And so, it was so funny. I mean, the interaction between actors and the storyline and just all the witty comments.
Did you just look at me? Did you? Look at me! Look at me! How dare you! Close your eyes!
Mean
You're
Girls,
right.
for
It
sure.
plays like you're watching Mean Girls.
Or
like,
All About Eve.
The dialogue doesn't lean way heavily into the exact vernacular. Like, they're calling each other names like you would call on Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
You look like a badger.
Yeah, and there's, that's with movies like this, you don't think, so period piece, you think it's gonna be boring, and it's not.
Some of the things you mentioned, Rachel Weisz included in her discussion. Take a look.
You go see this with an audience, you're going to see them reacting to everything the way you want them to react.
I'm so glad. That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard, yeah.
For the people, I have a specific friend in mind that I won't out right now. Robert, who won't go see a period piece. I have to drag him to a period movie.
Yeah.
I know he's going to love this movie. It
Yeah.
hits on every level. How do you drag these people into this movie?
Well, I would say to Robert, Robert, what you have to understand is that this isn't a dusty museum piece where people are very stiff and polite and talk with great subtext. People are kind of not polite, quite sexual, quite erotic. It's a thriller. It's a political thriller. There's intrigue. There's sex. There's deceit. There's bitchiness. There's
everything I love in life.
Yes. There you go.
She's quite lovely. If I had an English accent, hers is the one I would want because it sounds very smart.
She's so elegant and so poised and...
I feel like the movie gave me the Urban Dictionary for the 18th century.
There you go. Just all the banter between them and all the vindictiveness and the shadiness and just that and all the stuff in the bedroom's exciting. It's just a good movie.
Real Housewives of London.
You can tell Emma Stone enjoyed making this movie. Maybe not that part, I don't know. We talked about other stuff. Take a look. Is there a moment in the movie that, you're reading the script going, oh, that's going to be great, and ultimately it ended up shooting that way, and you just love the experience?
It felt the same. I mean, for most scenes, definitely. But part of the problem is sometimes when you're reading through a script, you see the stage directions as an actor, and you know what's happening, but you don't really think about having to do all of the stage directions. So there were a lot of moments for my character that were like, Abigail falls out of a carriage into mud, or Abigail hits herself in the face with a book and gives herself a nosebleed, or Abigail gets whipped. And I was like, oh, great, okay. And then each day that something was actually physically happening, those were the moments where I was like, this is nuts. This is totally nuts.
Classically people say, don't work with kids, don't work with animals, but there are at least a dozen scenes in this movie where you've got 17 rabbits running around at any given moment. How is that?
Yorgos has a thing about working with animals. I mean, there's animals in all of his movies.
Yeah, right.
The rabbits were very sweet and great. The duck, more complicated. Personality-wise, the duck poops all the time. The rabbits pee all the time, but the duck poops all the time. And who wouldn't choose pee over poop?
Quote of the day.
Am I right?
Why all of a sudden now am I getting the...
second time talking about poop today, by the way.
Love her in this movie, and again, going back to it, not since Rachel McAdams was versus Lindsay Lohan has there been a better female-on-female rivalry in a movie.
Yep, and that's what you gotta love, the juiciness of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So go see The Favorite. At risk, know that it's a very adult movie with very adult topics, but I will tell you this, if you hate period pieces,
it's not that.
Go see it. It's a great movie that plays like now. All right, coming up in a moment, finally, there's a Spider-Man for everybody. The Amazing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is remarkable in a multitude of ways. We'll talk about that podcast next. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, extra butter talking Spider-Man. Oh, hey, welcome back. Hey, we got some friends here. What are you guys going to see?
Creed 2.
And who are you guys again?
I'm Keisha.
Keisha and Todd, everybody. Going to see Creed 2. What should we tell Keisha about Creed 2 that she needs to know?
Well, like I said, Michael B. Jordan, he has an 8-pack. That's pretty much the most important part of the movie. There's some good fighting scenes for you, don't worry. There's some awesome slow-motion fighting scenes, but really it's Michael B. Jordan in the 8-pack.
You're going to want to do 1,000 push-ups after you see this movie,
yeah,
too.
Exactly. How are you doing? Are you a 2-pack, 4-pack, 6-pack, 8-pack, 10-pack? Where are you at?
I'm a 12-pack.
All right. Enjoy the movie, you guys. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, so Into the Spider-Verse. When I first saw this, I thought, I don't know what to think about this because it's animated, but it's that kind of creepy animation that looks almost like it's photorealistic, but it's not quite. But I saw the movie and I loved it.
Fantastic. I couldn't believe that the courage it took to them to do diversity in this movie. I was like, wow.
And props to Marvel. This all started with the source material. They saw a need for diversity long before Hollywood saw a need for diversity. And then this became. So if you don't know about it, it's Miles, as you mentioned. Miles Morales is a guy that ends up getting spider powers and becomes a Spider-Man because it's generational. It's kind of like that old Latin group Menudo. When you get too old, it's time to hand it off to the next Menudo. And pretty much the same thing going down, and then Peter Parker hands it off to Miles. Peter Parker is Jake. Miles is played by Shamik. We talked.
I kind of like about this movie that it's kind of for everybody. There's somebody in this movie that you could say, that's my person. Yeah. That's my Spider-Man.
Yeah. I like a Spider-Man that looks like he may have slept in the costume a couple times.
And that's yours. And for some 10-year-old kid, they might be like, that old Peter Parker wasn't for me.
Right.
But this movie offers different looks of a hero. Yeah. And I think that's pretty neat.
Thanks.
What has been the most rewarding part of it for both of you so far?
Well, honestly, just hearing about people's children.
it might be one of the most rewarding parts for me, and how influential this movie is going to be for them.
If you and I talk about action movies all the time, did you think this played like an action movie? Forget that it's animated, it plays like a live action
I was gonna
action
say
movie?
like another animated movie that made me forget I was watching an animated movie. I'm like, this is incredible.
Yeah, it's funny you should say Incredible, because the qualities that Incredibles 2 has as an action movie, this has too. Let's talk about the creators behind it, Chris Miller and Phil Lord.
The Lego movies,
Yes.
and those movies are hysterical.
Did you guys go see the movie Solo, the Star Wars movie Solo? Did you find anything missing with that? It's because they fired those two guys. I love Ron Howard, but they fired those two guys who were going to bring their special thing that they didn't get to bring to it.
That makes a lot of sense.
I talked to them about that. I didn't talk to them about that at all, but we did talk. Take a look.
In the original Spider-Man that Stan Lee and Steve Ditko created, it was a pretty radical idea to have this lower middle class Queens kid who was a nerd be a superhero and not a billionaire or an alien from outer space. And the idea that one of us, a regular person, could rise up and become a hero was really inspiring. And this is sort of the modern version of that. And we wanted to say, anybody, it doesn't matter who you are, you can be a hero too.
I was really legitimately geeked out to be in that room.
You're always geeked out.
I made the mistake of Josh, our producer, told me not to read comments on YouTube. So what do you think I did?
You read
I went to read the comment,
yeah.
and someone called me a sycophant, and I thought, how dare you call me something that I've never heard of before? Do you know what that is?
I've heard it's a negative connotation. It's not a good thing.
Right, it's someone that butters up a celebrity for personal gain.
Weird, because what's the name of our show called?
Extra butter.
Extra
butter. I'm gonna sycophant this up. That's what I'm doing.
Whoa, don't sycophant. Sycophant, don't sycophant. No one wants to see that.
Could be Spider-Man.
And go see The Favorite, 'cause it's the best movie you'll see all year.
We're wrapping up the show with some extra butter.
The Favorite, it will be your favorite.
Wrap up this show. It's extra buttery popcorn because that's the name of this show.